Okay, you see my screen, my black screen?
Yes.
So if I just type like FR, it's going to say command not found. It's not a file. It's not, it tries to run it. It thinks that I'm running, I type this, it tries to run that. Now, if I type, let's say there is a file. Wait a second. Echo $path. Okay. So if I try to, let's say there's a file called, let's make a file. The touch, no, not touch, echo. Here. Where is AWK? User bin awk. So
what's the file type for doing shebang with awk commands? What's the file type?
Doesn't matter. There's no such thing as file types.
Like
there is no such thing as file types.
It's just a convention.
It's just extension.
It's just a convention for you to know what it is.
Scripts, no.
File types are just a convention. In Windows, they use file types to allow to create paths. In other words, Windows is kind of dumb. Instead of looking at all the paths, the way Windows was originally written, I mean, the way it's still written, instead of looking at all the paths, if it looks at the extension, and if the extension is such and such a thing, then it must be this type of file. Windows doesn't work, Unix doesn't work that way. Anyway, in Unix, the extensions in general are meaningless, unless certain programs like GCC, where there is an extension. So I don't need to put an extension. So for example, I can say echo okay. Cat F1. Well, hey, why didn't that work? Oh, I need quotes probably. See, that didn't work.
Escape the rest of the string, like comment out the rest of the string.
You ignore the rest of the string, so I gotta go like that. Oop. I got it. Let's try with quotes.
What are we doing?
Why is it not doing that? Echo. Event not found. Oh, I have to have / the exclamation mark. I'm just showing you an example. I'm setting up an example to show you. Right now, you don't have to understand anything. I'm just going to show you an example. There we go. Cat F1. So there, I made a file with F1, we called F1, which has been the shebang line. Now, if I try to run that, F1, just type F1, enter. Permission denied, because I didn't have the right mode. Change mode, 700, give myself executable on F1. Now I have permission. Now when I try to run it, it's not going to tell me permission denied. It's going to tell me
the file. Why don't you have permission?
Because we learned that last time. The mode was wrong. If I do touch,
doesn't the mode get automatically set to the whoever made it?
Look, here's the mode. LS. Look at F2. What is its mode?
Oh, you already changed it.
Does it have executable?
Nope. Is that the default?
That's why it said permission denied. I don't have permission to execute it. F1 does have. I gave it permission. I gave it executable, so now it could run.
Are these the default modes whenever you create a
default is not executable
mode? We just saw that the default mode is read on this. First of all, the default modes can be user defined, but I didn't change them, and the default modes on my system are read write and read read.
All right.
But I can change that on a particular file. So you know what? I don't like that example here. What if I do here? There you go. That's what I wanted you to see. Look, if I do cat F1, I see that the path that the shebang line is bin KWA. That's a typo. So it tells me bad interpreter, no such file or directory. In other words, it tries to run tries to run F1 using the interpreter at bin KWA, but there is no interpreter there. So it runs it, but it fails. So now we see, if you're asking what is the function of that thing? Well, if I run a file, if I just run a file, like it needs to know what that file is, how to run it, what program is going to interpret it. In other words, if I don't give it a file, if I write a file, if I don't give it an interpreter, it's going to try, the bash is going to try to run. There's three things that can happen. Either I give it an interpreter and it runs it as that interpreter tries to read the lines. Or I don't give it an interpreter and then the shell, the normal shell, will try to run it. And if I give it a non-existing interpreter, then the non-existing interpreter will try to run it, but there is none, so it'll tell me bad interpreter. Because there is no interpreter bin KWA. Again, cat F1 has the wrong interpreter. Cat F2 has no interpreter. If I try to run that, let's try to run that. Change mode.
Cat the interpreter?
Let's try to, can I cat the interpreter?
Can you make cat the interpreter? So anything you like.
Yeah, but that would be kind of weird. Here, change mode, F2. Now I can run F2. Look what happens if I try to run F2. F2. The shell tries to run a command called hello1. Command not found. The shell is trying that. The shell is failed. I didn't give it a shebang line, so the shell tried to run it. If I gave it a shebang line, then that interpreter will try to run it. If that doesn't exist, it'll tell me there's none. If I give it an awk interpreter, then it'll try to, then it won't run it as shell, it'll run it as awk. Awk is not shell, and shell is not awk. If I would run a command, like if I would do, you know, echo hello, that's a command, echo hello, and I type that in and I put that into F2. Now when I try to run F2, it runs perfectly fine, because if I cat F2, I see that it's a command. Echo hello. Echo hello is a command. Hello is not a, hello one is not a command. Echo hello is a command. So even without a shebang line, it worked.
And
but if
shell is running the echo.
Yes, shell is creating a child process, and it's letting echo execute in that child process.
So echo is not the interpreter.
Not at all.
Okay, and what if we made echo the interpreter and wrote hello in the file?
I never tried that. Let's try that. I don't know if that's really, it sort of makes no sense, but let's see if we can do it. Where is echo? First, I want to know where it is. It's in user bin echo. So let's do cat, not cat, echo, quote, slash, user bin echo into.
Wait, we also want some text to read.
What?
In the file. We also want to have some text in the file.
Yeah, I understand. I understand. And now echo. Oh, that was a mistake. That was a mistake. I forgot to write. I have to do this. And then echo hello into F2. Now cat F2. So oh, that was wrong. I don't know why I thought I had to do that. That's why I thought I had to do it. Because,
I think you only need to escape the backslash. Sorry, escape the exclamation point.
really? I don't know much about events.
You could just do it in a text editor. It's easier.
Oh. Can't read that though. D for delete?
X for delete.
Oh, X.
Delete a character.
Didn't work. I have to be in insert mode?
No, you have to be in normal mode.
It's easier to just use nano.
Ah, there we go. X. And now I.
What happened?
Okay, cat F2, and we have our file. And this is this weird thing that we're trying to do. And now if I run this,
Are the modifications good? I don't.
yeah, the way it's written is good. I got a shebang line with
I'm
the
saying, does it
location
have
of X.
executable rights?
Oh, I didn't, yeah,
That's
that
right.
should be fine. Yeah, F2 is fine. So now F2. Yeah. It just took. Yeah, you can't do that. It echoed the command, not the. It's as though I wrote echo. It's as though I wrote echo. You see, I ran the echo, and then the next thing is what it got, which is the command. You can't do that. It's not an interpreter. Echo's not an interpreter. You can't just run any command. It has to be an interpreter. I mean, you can, but the next line is ignored. It doesn't know to read the lines in the file. That's why I have to do that man. That's, I think, why the walk needed the -F to tell it that this is a file. Oh, man awk.
Yeah, I already looked it up. It's the program file.
File. You see, it tells it file. Read the awk program source from the file instead of from the first command line argument. In other words, it tells it don't look for the command line. Look, you must have. That's what tells the interpreter to start being an interpreter. Otherwise, it'll be just like a regular command, like echo. But I don't think echo has a -F flag. It doesn't. No, it doesn't have a -F flag. In other words, there's no way to do that with echo. So anyway, you guys can submit labs 1 and 2.
Can you just go over what's on lab 2?
Yeah, lab 2, I actually did it with the girls. But you guys are not
And
gonna
that
get
doesn't really help us that much, but
Are you saying they're better than us, that they get to do it then?
Well, there are only
Go
2 of
over.
them. So,
wait, what? There's only 2 girls in the girls program left?
well, 2 girls in this class. I don't know, some of them decided to do it like the next semester or something. I don't know.
You do an entire like 2.5 hours for just 2 people?
What can I do?
Why don't they just join the
What can the
guys?
school do? What can the school do?
Yeah, why don't they just join us?
They have to segregate.
Yeah, especially with Moodle. it's
Zoom.
with Zoom. Well, I have to tell you, it's a totally different experience there because they put on their, the two of them put on their video and they ask me questions and, you know, here I'm talking to,
See you like them better.
Why are
I
they
like
not
them.
on Discord?
what?
Nothing. It was a shout out to Avraham.
What do I want? I like them better. Yeah,
You're looking at
they
Lab
interact, they ask questions, they'll just let me rattle on.
We have spaceships.
What was I gonna say? Also, I have them in the morning, so I'm awake. You want to see the thing in Moodle?
You're at a submission box for lab 2.
Yes,
Do you
there
even finish
is.
Lab 1?
I think so. I think I made them today. You see my screen?
No, we only see the Linux thing.
Stop share. Share screen. Okay.
There's no submission box unless you have to make it showable.
Oh, I guess I didn't make one. So let's look at the question though. You see it's awk.
Awk.
By the way, lab 3 is also awk.
Awk. Can we do Lab 3?
Probably because it's awk and said. Yeah, you can do lab 3. Write an awk script that reads a file and extracts any numbers in the file and checks if they are prime numbers. The script should then print all the prime numbers that it found. So for example, if I have like this, math is 179 day, found 130, 193 dairy, it should print 179 since that's a prime number. 193 it should print. 18 it should not print. 17 it should print, and 19 it should print. So it should extract all the numbers from every line and print only those that are prime. It sounds hard, but it's actually not so. It's actually short.
Why did it print 17? Oh, Nahum 17.
Yeah. 17 is a prime
Do
number.
we need to add the shebang at the beginning?
Yep.
Yeah, you do, sure.
Why can't we just write it in one line and add a AWK to the beginning? Would that also work?
You could do it a one-liner. You want to write a one-liner? You can.
So the one-liner would be, this goes back to, I guess, the original question. If it was a one-liner, then the shell is just immediately running AWK.
That's right.
Instead of having to switch to the interpreter of AWK.
No, that's no difference. No. I don't like the way you said that. The shell is running AWK, and AWK is being passed as standard input, whatever your line is. And AWK, the interpreter doesn't, right, it's running, AWK is running as a command, not as an interpreter, in the sense, it's not as a file reader, put it that way. That's really the right way to say it. It no longer is going to read a file, it's going to read the standard input that you wrote on the command line. In other words, you wrote a single command, AWK gets run and gets given that line right away, as it doesn't need to read line by line in a file.
When the shell passes the file, it doesn't pass the shebang line. It passes the entire file except for that first line.
Shell. So I mean, I've never thought exactly about this question. How exactly does it run a file like that? Yeah, it must read the line of the file, see that it's a shebang line, then start up the interpreter and pass it the rest of the file. Yeah, or the whole file. And it could be the interpreter just knows to ignore the shebang line. Because after all, the shebang line starts with a comment, which means ignore. So it could be that only the shell is specially written to not ignore the ignore line there and read it. But when it passes the whole file to the interpreter, since it's a comment line at the beginning, it ignores it, thinks it's a comment. That's from the perspective of the AWK, that first shebang line is actually a comment. So it ignores it. So it doesn't have to truncate it, doesn't have to remove it. Is that clear?
Yeah, sounds good.
How does it get passed in with two less thans or one less than when you're trying to do
These are silly
command?
questions. This is a silly question. I'm not going to deal with that. It's not important. You're asking questions that you're just trying to make me figure out what you're saying and then try to answer you, but it's completely unimportant questions. I'm sorry. It's
Which
not,
which what's it called? Which file was the lecture from today?
lecture 3.
Lecture 3.
So let's start working on this. If you have questions, ask me now. Or ask me
I
as you
just
come to.
asked my question.
No, but questions, no. Questions like, how do I do
found
this
it was
in awk?
illegal.
Is there a file separator that will separate between a boundary between a number and a non-number?
Ah, there you go. That's a great question. Is there a file separator that will separate between a number and
Yeah,
a
and a
letter?
field separator.
A field separator? No. Great question, because I can answer it.
The default field separator is a space, right?
The default field separator is space.
So would it not work if we just replaced all non-numerals with spaces?
That would work. Why wouldn't you do that? That sounds great.
But then if you have like two numbers in the same line, then it would become a larger number.
No. You replace with a space. You replace
Oh,
Dave.
not with blank space, but with a space, an actual space.
Yeah, with an
Okay,
actual space. You might use sed here. You might use sed. There's actually a way to use sed in awk, in an awk script.
Well, you could pipe it, right?
Within the script.
No. No, I don't mean you can't actually use sed. There's a similar function. There's a function in awk, which I did not teach. But the way you can find it is do like Google how to run sed in awk
Is
script.
there another way to go around this problem without that?
Probably, yeah.
There's always a million ways to solve it. I mean, right, if I solved it, it'll be exactly like I did with the girls. But there's lots of ways of doing it. Sure. You could, well, I mean, you're gonna have to get rid of the letters. I mean, that's pretty much what you're gonna have to do. And sed is a great way to do that because we learned that sed is replacing. Can awk do that? Well, how would you do this in C++? Awk is basically C++. So how could you do this in C++?
The for loop?
Right, you could do a for loop where what? Where every letter where everything you see, if it's not a number, how do you know if it's not a number?
Rejects it.
It rejects it. How do you know if it's not a number?
No, I'm saying rejects.
Check
like,
the ASCII
yeah.
value.
Right. I mean, in one way, what Abraham said is to check the ASCII. You know the ASCII values of numbers. And if you don't know, so you can Google it.
Wait,
By
but
the way,
instead of checking the ASCII value, couldn't we just pattern match it?
regular expressions. Awk understands regular
Yeah.
expressions. Google. Do you see my screen? How to use regex in AWK. You know, I mean, you guys have to think of the questions to ask and ask them and see if you get an answer.
But we still need to use like the spaces as a as a field separator.
You might try to use A to Z as your field separator. That also might work.
You can use any letter A to Z as a field separator.
I don't know. Try it.
Question
Don't
is,
ask
can you
me.
have a range? Oh, can you make a non-digit a field separator?
Can you make a what?
Any non-digit. Can you make a field separator to be a set of characters that any
For
character?
find out, try it. In other words, I want you to research it. This is regular expressions more.
You already said you could earlier in the lecture. You just, and you assign
I
it.
said earlier in the lecture that you could like write A, B, C, D, E, F, G, but what about if can you write like A to Z? Maybe try it. Let me, while you guys are thinking of questions, I will.
There's one Linux.
Lab submission for Machon Lev.
Apparently the delimiter can be a regex expression, a regex, so that
No, I don't call it regex, I call it regex.
regex. Okay, so then
Is
you
it-
can just do A through Z.
Yeah, so there you go. But it also capital A, I mean, yeah, I don't want to do A to Z, you want to do not a number. Because you don't know what's gonna be in the file, maybe there'll be periods and exclamation marks and question marks and space, you know, anything that's not a number.
Okay, and then you can do regex to test if field is a number or not.
Yeah, 0 to 9 is a number, not a number would be caret 0 to 9,
Inside brackets.
inside brackets.
How do you create variables inside of the script? It's just like C.
It's
Is
just
it
like
fact-
C, except you don't have to declare the variables, you just write I equals 0.
Does it make sense just to grab all the numbers and then just read every single character, add it if it's a number, add it to a array, and then check?
Well, you
which
got
one-
numbers, you remember, read every single character. Yeah, and then you'd have to sort of patch together the number because you're gonna, a number could be 3 characters long, or 4 characters long, or 20 characters long. Numbers have
It's not
characters.
multiple nested if statements.
Yeah, you could do that. It just might be, yeah.
I understand. What do you do with if you're doing it as an arc? Wait, we don't have to do it as an
I
arc.
said, yes, you could do that. You could do that. If you want to do that, you can do that.
But,
Just saying what you have to do if you do it that
I'm
way.
saying if you're doing an arc, you can only you have to
What's an ARP?
not whatever AWK awk or awk I meant.
Okay,
It's the file separators will only grab stuff, and then you would have to between each separation you would have to check if there's a number or whatever.
right. I mean, you. Here. How much time you want?
I don't know, 3 weeks.
3 weeks? Well, I guess it doesn't matter. You know what? Yeah, I can. I think I'm gonna give you. Yeah, 3 weeks. 3 weeks. All right. Seems like a lot. March. I don't know. Here's a date.
Like eighth.
Whatever. You guys are gonna finish it right now. I did it with the girls in 20 minutes.
That's so much time.
Exactly. You can do it in 10 minutes. That's lab 2. Let me give you lab submission 3 also. There, I gave you a lab submission for 3 also. Should do that for the girls too.
We're supposed to write like the script that takes in takes in another file and then reads all the prime numbers from that file.
Well, no, the way you'll run your script is you'll run the command awk. You'll run your name of your file. Let's say my awk file, space, and then the other file.
How do we read that file from?
Automatically. That's the -F.
No,
That's not the -F. That's not the -F. That's the way awk works. Awk takes a file.
All right.
So wait, you don't even have to execute the
The other
don't
file
even
has to be
have
readable.
execute
The other
script.
file, the file with the text in it has to be readable.
All right.
Doesn't have to be executable. But the awk file has to be executable. So there you go. You have submission boxes. Let's look at lab 3. I got to give you some more labs so you can have more knowledge. Kibui Aricha. Now let's go to lab 3 and look at it for a minute. This is a heavy lab. Yeah, so lab 3 is longer. But really, you don't know enough about it, enough shell script to do it. All right, so we won't assign it yet. Whoever knows shell script already can, of course, do it.
What's the -F again doing?
Just copy it. Listen, when I first learned to do this stuff, I didn't ask so many questions. I just saw that you have to write that, and I wrote that.
That's why it took so long. Gotta ask questions.
Well, the truth is there was nobody to ask questions. I just had to teach myself. So you guys have me. You can benefit from my great wisdom and learning. I mean, you can ask me questions, but what does the -F do is not important. You just copy it. But I already explained it.
It doesn't matter. I found it anyways.
How do we figure out if it's prime?
Well, I don't know if there's a function for it. I just did a loop. What is a prime number? What is a prime number? Always ask yourself these definitions.
A number that's not divisible by anything other than itself and 1.
Exactly. It's not divisible by all the numbers less than it. So you start at number 2. Yes, you can. Just a second. I want to check something. You start at the number 2 and you make sure it's, if at the minute it's divisible by one of those numbers until you get to the actual number. As long as it's not divisible, you're okay. In other words, it's still prime as long as it continues to be not divisible. So that means you have to use modulo. But you can use mod in awk. It's basically C. Awk is basically C. Anyone want to show me their work in progress?
Yeah, sure. In the middle of it. You want me to share my screen?
Oh yeah, I'll stop my share.
So on the right, I have a test file. This is my script.
So the field separator is anything but 0 to 9.
Well, you
And
need to write out fs equals that. Can't we just write that in the -f?
This is a script, so it's gonna. I'm
No, you got to do it this way. You got to do the way he's doing it. Yeah, you got to
running like this. I'm just running my script, and then I'm giving it the test file.
exactly. That's what I want. I want you to run the script, and then the name of the file that you're running it on. That's it. No parameters. No, no. The word awk does not appear in this line. It's just the name of the file.
Okay.
So yeah, in the for each line, this is like the middle section. So for each line, it will go for every field. So it's already been split on non-numbers.
Right.
So every number. So it's going to be either an empty field or a number.
And then you're just going to print them.
Right now, I just print it. So I have to.
Yeah, this is very good. This is exactly the way I would do it as far as debugging. Now, there's first you just make sure you can print it, make sure you're getting the right thing, and then you slowly build up your program. All right, stop your share. Yeah, that's the general direction. Somebody else wants to show me something?
Well, does there have to be a begin there?
Show me what you got.
Okay, just a second.
If you're going to define fs, there has to be a begin. I mean, it doesn't have to be. No. Yeah, you should have a begin. Yeah, you should have a begin. I mean, you don't have to. I don't think you technically have to, because I think that you could redefine your FS on every single line. It's just wasteful, but you could. It slows down this program a little bit.
I'd like to point out that Visual Studio Code has a awk extension with auto-completion and stuff.
Ah, so you're saying you can, as long as if you've set up your WSL and you're using Windows and running it in Unix, you can actually use Visual Studio, you're saying?
Visual Studio Code.
Visual Studio Code. Excellent. So what you got here is good. As long as very similar for I equals 1, as long as 1 is less than number of less than or equal to the number of fields plus, if that field is equal to, well, that's not good. Well, why are you saying if it's equal to? You got to the next thing you got to do here is, first of all, you should do what Abraham did, is first just print it, make sure it's working. Before you do the next step, make sure that this step is working. You hear me? Who's sharing their screen? Hello?
Who wants to know? Not me.
I couldn't control it. I'm not sure how to unzoom or unmute. Wait, what should I do done differently?
I said, first of all, you should print, make sure before you start, once you got your loop going, once you got your fields, make sure that part works by printing what you have so far. In other words, don't start writing the next lines of your code after your first loop. Just do a loop and make sure that that works. That's the proper way to program. You write a little, you just write the beginning thing. Make sure that it, and use your print as your way of checking that things are working. And then you can always remove the print later. You don't want to write like, you don't want to write like 10 lines of code and then say, it doesn't work. Why doesn't it work? You want to make, you want to stop at the moment something doesn't work. You write one line and you run it.
How do I move it to the WSL?
You're not in, what do you say?
I was using Notepad in Windows. How do I move it to the WSL?
Well, really what you should do is open the file in WSL and then open it.
I can just run it there.
Do you have VS Code installed?
Yeah.
Do you, in your, which distribution do you have in your WSL? Ubuntu, I guess?
Yeah.
Go to open any WSL type, sudo apt install, I believe it's code. I believe code is the right program for Ubuntu.
And what's that do?
It will install Visual Studio Code within WSL, so it will allow you to connect to that. Will basically allow you to use your Visual Studio Code from Windows and run it as if you're in your WSL.
Oh, cool. Okay, fine.
Wait, actually, you probably don't even need that. You can, if you can.
You just need to be able to read.
Yeah, you just need to be able to open that file.
Execute.
It is more convenient if you set it up that way, though, but it might take time, so I'm not going to explain how to do it now. You just open that file with Visual Studio Code.
Okay. I'll explore that. All right, thanks.
All right, I think we're done for today. Keep working. I'm sure you can get a short solution. It's not so hard. Use Google, have ideas, search for them. If the ideas don't work, try other ideas. But usually your ideas there'll be a solution. In other words, awk has functions that you can use. It also has whatever. Also, there's a logic. You can just use your own logic to figure out things. And try things. Don't be afraid to try things. You can't break your computer by running awk.
What if I uninstall